All right, let's start it up.
Really? I know.
Okay, attention everyone. I'll start up and then we'll call for the pledge. Good evening, everybody. This is Wednesday, June 12th, 7 p.m. regular meeting of the Town of New Canaan Town Council. Up on agenda item number 1, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody please rise.
It's on autopilot.
That's great.
Look if you are in uniform or put your hand on heart if you are. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
We had a little back and forth
I know,
there,
no back
but
and forth
nothing, they don't want anything to do with us.
No introduction.
Yeah,
It's
no?
a beautiful
Well,
night. Let them
Yeah.
get outside and play.
Oh, they're back.
Oh,
Oh,
wait a
they're
second.
back. Good,
Wait.
Maybe we should ask.
Are they coming to stay? Well, their leader isn't here, so I feel a little weird asking the questions. What's that? Okay, well, actually, before we start, I noticed we have some of the troop here. So we're happy to have you here to observe your local government in process. This is how they say the sausage is made. That's the kind of the little, comment, but anyway, okay.
Spicy or not?
Spicy, well, okay, let's take the roll call.
Okay, Rita Bettino,
Here.
Tom Butterworth,
Here.
Janet Fons, Luke Kaufman. Luke here. Mike Morrow,
Here.
Maria Norton, Kimberly Norton,
Here.
Hillary Orman,
Here.
Christina Ross here, Eric Thunum,
Here.
Kenny Young,
Here.
Jennifer Zonas. Okay. We have a quorum.
Okay, next up is the agenda item number 2, minutes. Approval of the minutes for the regular meeting held on May 15, 2024. Can we have a motion for approval, and then we can open it up for discussion? And we'll jump at the same time. Can we have a motion? Oh, Maria, okay. So a motion by Maria to approve the minutes for May 15, 2024. Do we have a second?
Second.
Hillary, seconds. Discussion on the minutes?
Yeah, I have a comment, Mr. Chairman, on the second page, financial update. Says Josh Kaufman presented update on recent financial results, noting that revenues are 100.28% of budget and expenditures are at 78.2% of budget. Does that mean of budget? Approved budget as of that time of year, or does that mean of the total approved budget for the year? So that means we have already collected more than 100% of revenues of the year's budget by this date.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. Yet we've only spent 78.2% of the budget, which is more in line with the time. What's that?
Yeah, but this was May.
No, this was May.
I know, I'm just saying, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, we have a crack collection team.
My goodness. So we have we anticipate very little in the way of additional revenue between May 15 and June 30. Is that what we're saying?
No, you're still.
Or are we likely to go to 105, 110%?
So you can have parking tickets, you can have many different categories of revenue. So they budget a certain amount, and if you go beyond that, then obviously the percentage is beyond what budget. So
All right.
they're still collecting They're still collecting parking tickets. I don't know. what-
This is my first year and I just think that's remarkable. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Also on that, 1, 2, 3 items down from that, Ms. Kelly Lent, on independent accounting firm, Ms. Kelly Lenz presented the audit committee's recommendation as acting as an ad hoc committee. Should it not say acting as an ad hoc committee member?
Committee, along with the first selectman and chairman, but that's the ad hoc.
Well, then it should say Ms. Kelly Lenz presented the audit committee's recommendation, who, along with the first selectman and chairman of the town council, act as an ad hoc committee.
Agreed, yes.
'Cause, Ms. Kelly Lenz is not an ad hoc committee.
So along with the first selectman and the town council.
Comprise an ad hoc committee of what? Of the,
An ad hoc of the audit.
okay. Those are all my comments.
Thank you, Eric. Any other comments, edits? Maria, you have something?
Just an edit on page 3 under education. The last sentence, other items included possible changes to there are actually 2 policies. The educator, increasing educator diversity policy and the school resource officer policy. So either make it say policies or list them both.
Other changes to the educator diversity and school resource policies.
Changes to it was called increasing educator diversity. That's one policy. And the other one was school resource officer policy. So it looks like one policy there.
Tom, please.
Under independent accounting firm, we approved the engagement of PFK O'Connor Davies as our independent accounting firm. During that discussion, it was stated that there's a statute that requires that every so many, I believe it's every 5 years, to change audit firms. And it since has been clarified by email that that statute does not apply to New Canaan. I just want to make that clear in the public record because right now it just exists in email land. So we're not violating any statutes.
Are you suggesting changes?
No.
Just point clarification.
Yeah.
Any other edits or comments? Nope. Anybody? Okay, so we'll now take a vote on approving the meeting minutes for the May 15, 2024 meeting as amended, as reflected in our discussion right now. And we're clear on those edits? Okay, great. All in favor? The motion passes unanimously. That's
So I think. Okay, so,
right. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 3, public comments. Members of the public are welcome to speak to the town council on agenda topics scheduled for review and or vote. Speakers are requested to provide their name and street address, and comments will be limited to 2 to 3 minutes, subject to the total number of speakers. Evan? Nobody? Okay. Let's move it along. Number 4 on the agenda, New Canaan Police Department project update on the status of the New Canaan Police Department renovation. We are honored to have the.
Thank you for having me. I'd like to say, Joe and Tiger, I see them on there on Zoom. Nothing brings out Joe and Tiger more bright-eyed, bushy tail.
Hold it down.
All right, sorry, thank you. Nothing brings out Joe and Tiger in a more focused manner than the threat of Walbert speaking to the town council without notes. So we appreciate you guys being there to move us forward. First thing we do is thank our neighbors of the police building because they've been very tolerant and patient with us. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of dust, there's a lot of trucks and a lot of people there. And they've been very supportive of the project and have been very helpful to us in making sure the ball moves forward. And also a special shout out to the EMTs who have been more than patient and tolerant. It's been, let's face it, it's been an inconvenience for them. They've had to make some compromises in the way they go about their daily business, you know, with sharing a driveway and things like that. And they've been a real troopers. So thank you, EMTs. Thank you, neighbors. It's been a pleasure having them as our neighbors. As far as the project overall, you guys, you know, I assume got the sodium tablets. You know, it's going well. We never like to jinx anything, but you know, right now, as far as the contingency is concerned, we are a little 1.2 million, which is really pretty good, you know, out of the 1.9 we started with. There are a few things that always go wrong, and especially rehabbing a 100-year-old building. But so far, so good. Could things still happen going forward? Of course they will. In fact, I guarantee you something else will happen. But you know, the things that could cost us a lot of money most likely is water under the bridge. So I feel like we are, you know, in a fairly happy place. Turner has been very responsive to us. Really no problems in working with them. Very communicative. They have been available, you know, for town people that want to, or you know, town elected officials that want to take a tour of the police building. They've been very good with that, and so that's all going well. Some of the pictures in the hands, I'll let Tiger or Joe talk to some of those pictures if they want to.
So, can I share my screen, Tucker?
Pictures by any chance, or?
Have anything on
Not on
my,
the tablet.
we don't have anything on our tablets.
It's in an email.
didn't?
Cody, your email from 11:25.
11:25.
Yeah,
Five
from today, 11:25 this
Okay.
morning. There's two attachments.
Who has to read it today?
Or it was the email to us today at 11:20.
I don't think I have it. I didn't get it.
You got it.
So can you see the screen?
I don't have an email. I don't have an email today.
Connected.
It's on the screen.
POCD stuff. I don't have any.
Old horses. They're coming, but this is, all right, stand by. Which of those two? Also on this.
Bill, is this the same set of slides you presented or they presented to the Board of Selectmen?
Yes,
week
Board of
ago?
Selectmen and Board of Finance last night.
Board of Selectmen meeting, so. But I'll.
Yep, yep. And our next meeting is tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. If there are updates, and there will be a few, but some of the things that affect the contingency have sort of been rounded and are included in our estimates.
Hold on, Rita.
I just got it.
Yeah, Mike just sent it to us.
I'm not getting anything. Something's wrong with my thing.
It's on the screen.
Yeah, it's fine. I can see.
Connected to GuestNet.
Everyone has,
Okay.
it's been emailed to
Is that the
everyone.
wrong one?
Okay, go on ahead, Joe.
Just got it.
If you like. Okay.
All right, thank you. So I won't go through the whole list. But I'd like to thank everyone on the committee. I'm always shocked at how dedicated and hardworking the members of the committee are. We've had our first meeting back in December of 2020, and we've been chugging along ever since. And as Bill mentioned, I know it's very important to be good neighbors in the community. And we've been pretty successful in that. We've had community meetings and outreach, and we really have talked quite a bit, coordinated with EMS and all the schoolhouse departments, and everything's been going very smoothly. Just to kind of recap, just for if there's anybody new. So this is the 1926 school building that was preserved, this section. There's a 8,800 square foot purpose-built addition in the back for the essential police department functions. And then there's a Sallyport, drive-through 2-bay Sallyport, which is a great improvement. So, and in this area is the prisoner processing. So basically the core functions of the police department are all new and purposely built.
Sorry, Joe, what is a Sallyport?
We put the
So the
bags
Sally
that way.
Port is where the prisoners, a vehicle would come in or an ambulance would come in, and it's a secured area. It's this garage, or it's basically a garage. But as soon as you go in there, it's a secure area, and you're able to go right into prisoners processing and into the jail cells, and everything is seamless. It's not like
Right, the two places you don't want to compromise with police station safety, Sallyport, prisoner processing. That's where bad things can happen. You want to build sort of a best of breed beast for those two things.
At
And
the
that's
risk of-
all new, purposely built, as Joe
The
said.
risk of prolonging the meeting, why do they call it a Sally
I
Port?
have no idea.
Joe, do you have?
Yep,
any-
no idea.
Google
No idea.
What?
Google
Yeah, Google it later.
So-
Thank you. Sorry. Go on.
No worries. So the project timeline, so we are currently on target. We were originally going to finish the project Thanksgiving of 25, and we're currently tracking towards spring of 2025.
Late
So
spring,
we're-
late spring,
we're-
Joe. Early summer is fine and on time. Remember, we told people
Yes.
Thanksgiving.
Yes. So that's what we're tracking currently. Just to go through some of the progress to see how we got here. In November 23, we moved the prime radio site. It was moved out of the PD over to the water tower. In 23, December 23, the police department moved over to 39 Locust. And also in December of 23, Turner Construction started the demolition. By February, the rear of the building was demolished. And in March, we worked heavily on the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and getting that all in the wall and distributed throughout the building and throughout the ceilings of the preserved section of the building. In April, the windows went in. They're all new windows have been installed, and they moved on to sheetrock insulation. In May, they're focusing on the foundations are being completed, and the first coat of paint is actually going on the third floor. So in the existing building, we're pretty far along on the third floor. We're actually dropping ceilings today. We were dropping some ceilings. The next big milestone that everyone will be looking for is the steel erection. We'll start in the next couple weeks, and will be completed by the end of July. We'll have some sort of topping off ceremony at the end of July. Oop. So I just passed him very quickly. This is our very dedicated Turner employee holding up the back of the building. So the 1926 building, there was some challenges with resupporting this column. The actual foundation, let's kind of skip you can see here that the foundation was set too high. It was set higher than the 1926 drawings showed it. So it would have been outside of the floor in a critical area in the back of the building. So we had to effectively lower the footing. So in order to do that, we had to re-support the back, the back half of the building pretty much, and support the column, remove this existing footing, build a new footing and a pier for it to sit on, and then and that's it. So now it's been poured, it's behind us, the footing is removed, and now we're proceeding with the rest of the work.
But this is the kind of reason you have a contingency for trying to rehabilitate a 100-year-old building. I mean, this cost us about a month, maybe 3 weeks, and it cost us $150,000, Joe, roughly.
Yeah, it was 100, and then plus whatever the cost for the month. Yes.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Please go right ahead, anytime.
So I love this because we're hearing about it as it's happening. We're
Mhm.
being told, this is what we encountered, you're explaining it, and we're not surprised if we
Mhm.
hear there's a change in whatever the estimate or the timing. So I appreciate getting this
Okay, good.
update.
Great.
Continue,
So
please.
and this was another section. This is the picture of the waterproofing. As part of the there was, when we were vetting out all the buildings, one of the challenges with the existing building was there was a lot of water infiltration into the lower level of this building. So we had consultants come out, they gave us a prescription for the fix. And the good news is when we uncovered the existing waterproofing, we did find kind of a, a smoking gun, so to speak. There was the waterproofing membrane that was 50 years old, had failed. It had fish mouths in it. It had obvious areas where the water would infiltrate. And there was a couple other things happening that, so we put a new waterproofing membrane, which you can kind of see it's covered now. So there's a new waterproofing membrane, a drainage board, an insulation board. And then lastly, we're regrading, the grade used to be pitched towards the building, which isn't exactly a good design practice. So we raised the level of the grade up to this level, and it will now pitch towards the driveway. So in a large rain event, you won't have all this water sitting here. And then lastly, if any water does hit this drainage board, there's a drainage board. It has dimples on the back of it, which gives the water area to flow down. And there's basically like a stone sausage with a pipe in it. And you'll be able to, any water that gets down to the base of the footing will be carried away via that storm pipe.
Right. Well, we made the decision to refurbish and redo a 100-year-old building. We had to look the entire community in the eye and say, we can keep this building dry, right? We can waterproof this building. And, I know you guys used to go down and, the police station before, you'd see foundation, wasn't what it should have been. And, certainly water in the basement. And, to decide that we were going to keep this building, we had to look everyone in the eye and say, we can waterproof it in a way that is going to last for another 100 years. And so, that's what it looks like. And, we feel pretty confident in that.
Great.
Mm-hmm. So this is where we are with the addition. You can get kind of the scale of the addition. So this is the Sally port. This is the two basically large garage bays that go all the way through. This is the prisoner. These are the cells. There's 2 detention rooms and there's 3 cells. So that's this area. This area you can see by the lack of concrete in this area. This was the delay that was caused by this little bit of work that was well, not the little bit of work, but the work that was required to rework that footing with all the shoring and everything that was required.
Another question, sorry. Do
Sure.
you know how many, you may not know this answer, but how many prisoners do we process in a year?
Oh, we do know that answer. I forgot it, but we know it. I want to say 2 a month. Right?
No,
2 a month
I
on average.
Back to the very beginning of the
I think
process.
I think that was how many people stay overnight or get stuck in there for the weekend, Bill. They process people quite often. They're not necessarily brought in this particular manner. Some people turn themselves in on a warrant. But I understand it's a couple times a week.
So it's a difference between process and secure in a cell overnight. I think
Right.
the answer for secure in a cell is maybe 2 a month. Process is more because they're doing other things.
Right. Just want to clarify that.
Yes, the state tells us.
I have a question for you. My understanding was that one of the issues they wanted to resolve was to separate the male and the female holding cells. Since you have 3, has that been done?
Soup.
Yeah, so there's it's the way that they're configured, that you basically just can't have them looking at each other, more or less. So they're back to back.
Back to that. Okay, not side by side.
They're not. Well, there's some that are side by side, but there's enough so that you could have a female prisoner on one side, a minor prisoner on the other side. And if they had to, they could also bring people to Norwalk, but that's more of a process thing. But they did vet it out, and they were happy with the with the
Right, that's the
configuration.
kind of thing that is approved by the state to make sure that for that very reason, right, male, female, and, got the stamp of approval, so I assume that it's the way the state likes it.
Thank you.
And this is another view of the back of the building to get the scale. This is the Sally Port again being poured. There's radiant floor heating in this section. And then your new windows. So this is one of the windows at the north end. New Marvin window. This is the front of the building. It's actually has some progress since then, since these pictures were taken last week. If you go by, these are all the new windows have been installed. There has been all the wood blocking is installed, so all the backup for all the new trim and the decorative dental work that'll go back up, so that'll match what it existed. So that is going to be happening over the next month. And if you went out there today, you'd be able to see that most of this is turned white with the AZAC trim that's being applied.
Joe, are these operable windows?
They are operable windows. They get locked out at like 3 inches above the sill. But you could open them up essentially. I don't think their desire is to open them up. It's not really in a modern building. It kind of causes havoc with the HVAC system, but there is the ability to.
And we had a little snafu with the windows. What we thought would be delivered was not in fact delivered. So that, Turner graciously took that out of their contingency. The incremental money that was spent on taking back some windows and getting new windows delivered didn't really cost the project any time because it wasn't a lead time thing that was holding up other work. But as we look at those beautiful windows, there was a little problem with them, but it's all solved now.
All right, and this is the chief's office, so you can kind of see the level of where we are at this particular moment. This is the 3rd floor of the existing building. If you walk through, there's some people walk through today. We do have a ceiling grid in here. There's the actual cassette is in the ceiling for the heating and cooling. And there's been some additional progress over the last week, but this is where we are in the existing building. Basically, it's kind of a sample of the 3rd floor. And then the budget. This is the budget as we presented when we set the GMP. So we've been at as Bill already mentioned, we've been at the 1.9 for a very long time.
Contingency, 1.9. Contingency.
And so just going through just kind of a little bit of a breakdown on the contingency. We have $158,000, which is basically kind of PCOs that are pending, and there's rough order of magnitude. We just know they're coming down the pike. We did a transfer of the soft cost allowance. We expected, this was one of these expected, unexpected, the HAZBAT abatement. We had $100,000 allowance in the soft cost for all the abatement. So we transferred the $65,000 to offset the $65,000 cost for abating some PCB bricks and some smaller amounts of contaminated soil. Contingency items that have been approved by the Police Department Building Committee. And I'll let you know that people, they really kick the tires on these. And they every second and fourth Thursday, there's a building committee meeting, and we go through the PCO log, all the new items. And if there's anything there's a gatekeeper process, and they sign off on anything that's required to be signed off on by the committee. So as Bill mentioned, we're at $1.2 million in contingency. There is a couple other small items that we know about that have come across in the last couple of weeks. Namely, there's some structural items that we have to work around in the lower level. So there'll be some changes to this. We're not completely out of the the woods yet for spending money on unforeseen conditions, but we're pretty close. So we've spent 638,000 has been kind of committed or allocated to date, and that's 2.2% of the overall project costs.
Right, it's a $27 million project, including the rent at Locust Avenue and then moving the police department back and forth. The total, approved number was 29 million, in rough numbers, which included that $1.9 million contingency. As Joe says, we have spent 700,000 roughly of that, which leaves us at the 1.2. So as Todd over at the Board of Finance reminds us, it's a $27 million project that has 2 million in contingencies, not a $29 million project. And so we want to be as frugal as we can with these contingencies.
Yep.
Any
And I
line
guess the
items
last
that-
piece,
any line items that are coming on in under budget? I know.
Oh, a lot of them come in under budget, frankly. A lot have.
Yeah.
And you're delivering it sooner than what you initially promised. What's going on?
Joe's the man.
What's that?
No, well,
I think-
we're going, believe me, we're going, well, especially when you're talking about refurbishing a 100-year-old building. If this was new construction, you'd say, oh, big deal. The good news is we've done a lot of the reconstruction of the old building, and now we're sort of left with some new construction. And so the chances of things going south, diminish. But yeah, it's going well. We've had our first call with the Beautification League for the final touches on the plantings and things like that. So hopefully that will go well. The P&Z was very specific about native plants. Make sure we do that, and I'm sure the Beautification League is on that same page. So that's all. It's all still to be worked out.
Can I just ask you one final question? With regards to the EMS building,
EMS.
everything was severed and they're independent?
Yes.
those Buildings?
Yes, Tiger, that's correct, right? They're independent?
they're independent.
Yes.
They're independent. The only thing that they will still be served by is the town WAN. The town WAN switching is in the police department, and that will still, and it's just really just for like their phones.
And just sort of to set the table, for going forward, when the construction is done, it's still gonna be, months to bring in the police department. There's a higher standard for a public safety building. When it comes to a police department, you're dealing with the state for a lot of the communications requirements and needs, and that can always be difficult to schedule. It's not just bringing up a moving van and bringing the guys in while you go through the punch list. That just doesn't work for a police building. So it's I think we're scheduling 3 months or so from construction being done to moving in the police department. Is that roughly right, Joe?
Yeah, we have a startup, commissioning, furniture. There's items that the town will perform. So there's a few items that, and as you mentioned, it is a police building. So we will not be, we'll be 100% done with the punch list. So it's not like they'll move in and we'll still have people working on, the HVAC system. We're gonna have this building. We have a commissioning agent. The building will be fully commissioned, and that we'll kick the tires on it for a month as we run the building to make sure everything works properly before we move the police over.
And when do you expect that to be? What's
So it'd be
the
the summer of 25.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Is there any other department in the police building, or is it solely police? All three?
Solely police, but there is a public, are they calling it the CERT room, Joe?
It's the EOC room. The Emergency Operations Center will be there.
Okay, so our IT department is not moving in there.
They are not.
No.
The town has
the
the police department has kind of a one-person IT that does most of the police-related IT.
And Russ
And
Kimes has
and
been
then our
involved. working
town
with
just
the
kind of
police.
handles the switches to the WAN and the switches to it.
So is Russ moving into the police station? No.
No.
Okay.
EOC ever
Yeah.
gets stood up for emergency, it would take place at all the equipment.
Right. It's more, emergency to make sure that everybody has a room if they have to move over there, or a space if they have to move over.
Got it, thank
And his the EOC room is a multi-function room. So it'll be used by the police on a daily basis, but it is set up in a manner so that it's kind of like a bring your own device. But it's set up so that the EOC can be operated from there quickly and smoothly for the, few times a year it operates.
Bill, most importantly, what's up with the time capsule? Have we talked about what we're doing there? What we can put in? Should we make it a townwide contest to see who can
That's a
put
good
something
idea.
in?
I didn't want to jinx anything about starting to think about that.
Okay.
But I think there's a lot of things that we could probably start thinking about,
Right.
regarding the finished product. Yes.
Got it. All right, good enough. All right, any other questions for our esteemed panel?
No questions. I know you were all curious. The purpose of a sally port is to deter, defend, or delay against an unwanted entry or exit.
Whose name's Sally?
No,
Oh,
a sally is actually, comes from the Latin word saliere. It means to jump, but a sally is an unwanted, a jump from.
I want the
besieged
Boy
force.
Scouts to know that Eric Tunham is a proud graduate of the New Canaan High School, New Canaan Schools. So study your Latin and,
More importantly, don't be afraid to ask dumb questions. I mean, I really wondered what the heck a sally port was, and now I've learned something new. So there's 45 seconds you'll never get back. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
guys. Thank you. All right, next up is agenda item number 5, Playhouse Theater Project Update on status of the Playhouse Theater renovation project. Tiger, 10 minutes.
Thank you. So I'll add one thing to the police department. I walk that building every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock with Turner and Joe. If anyone wants to join, they're more than welcome. I had Deanna's come several times, 4 or 5 times already. And Steve Carl joined, Amy Murphy Carroll, we've had members of the Board of Finance. Just let us know, and every Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock, we'll put a hard hat on you, safety glasses and a vest, and we can walk you through the building if you'd like to see it. So as far as the Playhouse goes, we are within 2 weeks of opening. Hopefully, proposed opening, if you will, or proposed C of O. I'll walk you through the building as to where it stands at present. I did this last night for the Board of Finance. So if you're walking into the theater today, we were working on the exterior sidewalks that are directly adjacent to the theater itself. The first 5-6 feet out from the building will be concrete, and we were working and setting the grades now that the interior grades are set for the doorways and what have you. So as you walk into the main theater or walk into the main entry, the flooring, the wood flooring is done. It's just waiting to be buffed and sanded and stained. If you take a right into the concession, the flooring is done, fixtures are in, cabinetry is in, and the countertops have been templated and cut, and they should be delivered tomorrow and start to be installed. If we went to the left from the entryway and went into the bar, the exact same situation, as well as all the appliances for the bar. And the only thing that's remaining for the bar is the back bar. There's another area that's up on the wall that'll be placed, installed shortly. If we went into the theater proper, the elevator, we're scheduled to have the elevator tested and commissioned on the 20th of June. That was the first time the state could come in. And at that time, we'll commission the fire alarm and the exit systems and the lighting with the fire marshal. It's one day full of testing of the elevator and then the fire systems themselves. The men's bathroom has tiling and fixtures and is awaiting partitions. The women's bathroom tiling, fixtures, and the partitions are installed. Partitions on the men's room should be coming in tomorrow, next day, and be installed. So then if we work our way up the stairs, both sets of stairs, the wood flooring has been installed. Again, just waiting to be sanded and buffed and stained. And then if we get to upstairs, the main event space upstairs received its first coating of stain today. So it's actually it's a very nice floor. It's a herringbone design. And and it's been sand buffed and got its first coat. And that bar has been installed, and its countertop will be has been templated and will be installed tomorrow. The plating room itself is complete with all of its apparatus associated with it. So all the items for the kitchen itself have been installed. They're still working on the server room because of the projector company was in today working on wiring the projectors. And then if we get into the two theaters, the basement itself, everything in the basement is done. So they have refrigeration equipment down there. The floors have been epoxy. The walls been painted. The health department's happy with how we prepared that area. And then the attic itself, all the HVAC system is in, and there's just several tweaks that are going on at present. And then if we go into both theaters, we'll say the left-hand theater, seats are in, soundproofing is in, and they were working on just the down lighting, if you will, the lighting along the floor. And then on the other theater, exact same thing. Carpentry is carpets in, soundproofing is in, seats are in. Seats are very comfortable. I kind of walked around and sat in various ones yesterday, and they're very comfortable in both theaters, and we're waiting on the lighting themselves. And then the final wiring and the projector system screens are in, and we were painting the exterior of the building yesterday. We got a couple of touch-up things to do on the windows, and we should be, we're hopefully confident that we'll finish on time for CinemaLab to come in. They've got a couple of days that they need to come in and work within the building. We're giving them space in the town hall to do some of their training, and then they'll finish their training for how they want to prepare the food and serve the drinks and what have you, and just greet customers. We're allowing them space inside the town hall to do some of that training, and then they'll finish the training inside the theater itself. And they're looking at the events starting around June 27, 28, 29 will be their first events. They have they have one for staff, and then they have their grand opening later. And today they gave a tour for about a dozen or so executive producers from the movie world that were actually in New York for a different event. They bussed them up here, gave them a tour, gave them an oversight of what's happening at the theater, fed them at one of our downtown restaurants, and then they went back to their event. So that was a very successful day for CinemaLab. So I don't know if you have any questions or.
Any questions, anybody? Maria?
So when are there final inspections, and when do they think they'll do those and get a CO and all that?
The C of O, we're planning on the 21st of June. They've already had our building department, our health department, our fire marshal have been excellent. Planning and zoning, engineering, they've all been excellent working with the contractor themselves and CinemaLab, and they've been in almost daily. They've been in daily, let's put it that way, looking at different areas and signing off on things as they've been installed. So the final sign off will be shortly, but that'll be it's planned for the 21st of June at present.
Anybody else? Anybody?
I bet these boys are going to be excited to go to the new playhouse, though.
Yeah, I had a woman stop me outside today saying the exact same thing, that her family was very excited to go, and that they would actually be better patrons than they were in the past, because they wanted to keep the theater, and they felt badly that they didn't patronize the last theater, and Bowtie left. So they were feeling that they want to have a theater in town. So therefore, the only way to do that is to actually go to the theater, and they were committed to attending more events, and they were excited to see it open. So that was positive news.
I have one more question. I think it's really important. Do we know what the first movie will be?
No, I don't, literally, and I couldn't tell you if I
The
did.
secret? Have a contest.
Someone has to know.
Yeah.
Somebody does know, it's just not me.
Somebody does know.
Okay, any other questions for Tiger on this subject? Going once,
Thank you.
twice. Thanks, Tiger, appreciate
Thank you
that.
very
Thank
much.
you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 6, we'll do committee reports. So first up in the hopper is bylaws and ordinance, and I'll just make a general comment. so this discussion doesn't get too unwieldy and too long. I'll turn it over to the committee members. I just want to make this statement. The snow removal ordinance that's being considered by our committee, they had a fantastic meeting. It was last week? Last Wednesday. Very just informative on all ends, and there's a lot to consider. We can chat about, and I urge anyone who didn't attend it, I was listening, to just listen, because it was a really fantastic back and forth. And there's a lot of, I think, pros and cons on both sides. But with that said, I'm going to turn it over to our committee heads. I just don't want like a long, crazy discussion about it. You know, we'll just hear what they have to say, make some general comments, and then let's move it along. I just don't want it to be more than like 10, 15 minutes, okay? Because believe me, there's a lot to talk about.
It could go.
Yeah, so I'll turn it on over. So please.
Well, so this is unusual. We don't have a structure for this. We haven't done this very often in the past, but because we have time tonight, I thought it would be a good idea. There are people that, members that attended the meeting that may have some more to say, in addition to the excellent comments that were made at the meeting, but there are also two of you didn't attend, and Eric, for one, watched the video and may have some comments or questions. So free form, let's just keep it short.
And just so everybody's clear on what the issue is, the question is whether we should amend the current snow removal ordinance to give the responsibility and duty for clearing sidewalks of snow and ice to adjacent homeowners. As of now, the way the ordinance is written, the town has the responsibility to do that. I thought one of the interesting points that came up at the meeting is that under our current capabilities, there's about 22 miles of sidewalk in the town, which under the ordinance, we would be responsible for. We only get to about 9 of it. So the system existing now isn't necessarily sufficient. So the question is what to do. Do we amend the ordinance to revert responsibility back, which we are one of the few, if only, towns in Connecticut that has that responsibility. Most towns do put it on abutting property owners. And currently in the business district, right, the businesses do have the responsibility to clear their sidewalks. So this is about extending it possibly to residences.
Well, I think there's a little bit more too, like in terms of not to all, right? So out of those 20.
Yes, restricting. So in neighborhoods that where there's no school bus service and where kids have to walk to school, the town would, it's proposed that the town would keep that responsibility to clear sidewalks so that our students have a clear path to get to school when there's a storm.
So for instance, South Avenue, where a lot of folks are already walking, that would be covered. That would still be covered, right?
I don't know if the entirety of South Avenue would be covered. It's only where there's no bus service.
We'd have to, okay, so there are details, okay.
Yeah.
Right, but there would be some locations that the town would still be responsible for.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be all of South Avenue, but it could be.
Yeah, I don't.
That's
so
up for
sorry, I
grabs.
even suggested
Right.
there are some areas that
Right.
the town would still be responsible for maintaining. And also there's a reason why the ordinance in this town was the way it is, because apparently when new sidewalks were proposed, I think on Main Street, I think to incentivize folks to vote, because there was some contention about it.
There was a referendum about it.
Was a referendum about it. And at that time it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the town offered to, the ordinance was in place because they wanted to incentivize folks to take on the sidewalks. And so that's why the ordinance stated that the town would be taking care of the sidewalks.
In the residential areas.
In the residential areas at the time. So that's why we're slightly different than surrounding areas. That's why the law was the way it was versus other
And it
areas.
switched. So before that, the town
Did maintain it, right? Yeah, exactly.
She needs to come to Mike
Oh,
so
yeah,
that the public can hear
Deanna, if you
what
want to
she's
step
saying.
up,
Say
you don't
again.
have to if you want to. If you want to chat, it's better so they can hear.
I can repeat to what
Yeah,
Deanna just said.
that's fine.
So the first selectman just said that at the time that ordinance was written, the town assumed responsibility for the business district. Or at the time it had that responsibility and did not have it for residences. And when the ordinance was written, it swapped the two, which made businesses responsible for sidewalks abutting their businesses downtown, and then put the onus on the town to clear the residential areas. And so we've
That's
also
understood.
asked, just so everybody knows, we've asked Tiger in advance of our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks, July 1st, to have some hard estimates and numbers about how much it costs currently, one, to do the sort of around 9 miles that we do, to cover all 22 that we're technically responsible for. And what was the third figure that we asked
Or
for?
just to separate out from the other numbers, the school related.
Oh, right. And what
Please.
what if we were to adopt a proposed amendment that retained, where the town retained responsibility and liability for the sidewalks? How much that will cost the town going forward, and
Just-
town buildings, right? We would always do the sidewalks in front of the police station, the schools, the town hall, Vine Cottage, that sort of thing.
One additional consideration is any future sidewalks are not included in the 22 miles. So we also have to consider not just what we have today, but what we either hope to or aspire to have in the future. That's not included.
I just want to say, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. I
Do,
didn't
please,
get a
no,
chance.
go.
But the way that the referendum worked, the neighbors were opposed to the sidewalks, a good number of them. And if it wasn't on your side of the street, those neighbors supported it. The problem was that they didn't want to encounter the liability and the cleaning responsibility.
Mhm.
And it was really an affront to the town. So the town then, in order to appease everybody, assumed the responsibility.
Mhm.
So if the town, what I'm worried about, if the town gives their word and comes to a middle ground where they agree that they're going to take a responsibility, to then take it back is really not only losing your credibility, that it will affect you in the future. And I don't want to see that for the town. So I really want to understand what the cost is, because the way that you described it, Hillary, when you talk about 9 miles, it includes the properties that are owned by the town that they have to do regardless. It includes, the schools are separate, but it's included in that amount of land.
Okay.
When Tiger said that in 2008, I think it was 2008, he had received a quote for about $2 million, which Tom then said, well, it must be 5 million by now. The thing is that the 2 million is a gross number and doesn't break it down to parking lots, sidewalks, what is the town-owned properties, what are the schools? And I want to see what the 300 plus or minus residents that are on the highlighted area that Tiger provided, what is that cost?
Yeah. And you asked for that clearly.
Yes, because we need to know if it's 200,000, if it's 300,000, or if it's in the millions, which I really doubt it. But in any case, unless we have real numbers, and Tiger said, I'll go back to 2008 and revise that or update it. To me, that's a no-go. It has to be a bid or a real number in today's numbers as to what that cost would be in order for us to make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, we're not voting on anything
Yeah.
tonight, just to be clear, and it would have to pass the bylaws and ordinances committee, and I fully expect that we will have multiple meetings about this, and that those numbers should absolutely be considered in our analysis.
Let me just chime in just on a point of realism. I think the word was used, hard numbers. This is not a hard number kind of exercise. I mean, we don't know how much snow is going to come, how often in an average year. Is there a trend in weathers? So, probably what makes sense is to have a range of possibilities.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that makes sense, but something tangible that we can rely on, that's
Exactly.
an estimate on the high or low side.
Be committed to doing that at your next meeting. So,
Yeah.
we just need time to get that information together. So.
And it might be that even after next meeting, we're not prepared yet to amend it. So
We're not
this is a long conversation.
Yeah, I just didn't want the misunderstanding to be that the town either made a mistake by assuming that responsibility or that we just willy-nilly decided to do. There was justification to come to a middle ground in order to move the sidewalks forward. But the other question, the bigger question is, are we going to keep building sidewalks that are going to impact the budget?
Well, so, if I can jump in, 'cause
Please.
that is the impetus of this, is that there is a huge demand for this community to build more sidewalks. And at that point, I looked at the ordinance and I said, okay, we are not, I'd seen some some social media posts with angry residents that didn't have their sidewalks shoveled and didn't realize that it wasn't the residents' responsibility, it was the town's responsibility. So I knew that myself. That prompted me to go to Tiger to say, hey, how much are we actually getting to? And, you know, these residents don't realize that that's our responsibility. And so that kind of created the conversation. And then all these meetings with, you know, the Conservation Commission and having Jeff Speck come and walkable, you know, cities. It is a priority for the community. And, you know, as first selectman, I would like to be able to respond to that, but I can't in good conscience, given one, the liability that we are already putting on ourselves. And two, the cost. And I can tell you, you know, going through this year's budget, and everybody saw, we just voted last night at the Board of Finance meeting, a 5.27 year-over-year increase. Now the mill rate went down because obviously our assessed values went up on average 23.5%. But people are going to be getting their tax bills, and, you know, we are still in an inflationary environment. I don't see next year being much better than this year, and probably even more difficult. And so at some point, something's got to give. Either we don't build more sidewalks, you know, I don't know how. There are many ways to skin the cat on this. And, you know, I encourage, we've talked about it at the committee meeting, there may be different options for how to pay for it if, you know, you want to put it on the town, but it's not a sustainable model right now.
I'd just like to comment that, and I respect, I think that the level of sophistication of the comments is wonderful. I think we're doing a great job. I just would add that when you look and take the long view of what happens with public policy changes, sometimes every 10 years, sometimes 20 years, sometimes 50 years. We've been plowing these sidewalks for 16 years. Is that promise permanent, that the town is never allowed to change its policies because of what we did, you know, 16 years ago? Especially when the rest of the state is doing something different, and especially when it might actually impact our ability to provide a needed public service of expanding the sidewalk system. So, you know, I think you could argue on that point either way.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think that if we amended the ordinance, if we didn't amend the ordinance, then there might not be an appetite to expand sidewalks. If we amend the ordinance, there might not be an appetite to expand sidewalks. So to me, that's kind of a wash, because you might have town leaders and people who are doing the budget say, we simply can't afford, one, to actually plow all these sidewalks, or two, the risk of liability if we don't plow them, and we're not getting to over 50% of them right now. But on the flip side, you know, and I understand this argument too, if we don't commit to doing that, our neighbors and residents going to be resistant to the idea of more sidewalks. And so we don't get it that way. So to me, those two kind of cancel each other out. And what we need to do is figure out the best solution for the town, that and not everyone will be happy with that. And I just think that we need to be responsible about this. And to me, the potential liability is a little bit frightening, since we're not meeting our obligations now.
I mean, I just want to chime in a little bit. So I asked that question if there had been any lawsuits, and I'm listening to everything and wondering, you know, how much it's going to cost. So I second Christina's request to have a specific request for the homes that are not done now, not an overall bucket amount. So that's one of the things that I questioned. And then also, are the sidewalks actually going to get plowed by residents and or by the town, right? So that's what we're trying to figure out. So I don't have any data, and I asked Tiger, he said he would get it on the towns that have these policies. Are the sidewalks getting shoveled by people?
Mhm.
So one of my concerns is you've got parents that are rushing to get to school, rushing to get to work. You've got elderly people, you've got disabled people. And then when I looked at this map, I don't know if anyone's seen this, and I'm happy to share this with people. I got this Green Link map. And happy to share it with anyone. But when I look at the sidewalk links, I really look at it being, the sidewalks being vital to the downtown businesses as well as to the schools. And one of the reasons we moved here is because we could walk everywhere. We came from New York City and we wanted to be able to walk to the train. And I grew up being able to do that when I grew up in Massachusetts. So all of our schools are in the middle school and the high school is in one area. We've got the elementary school there. Really, most of the sidewalks are feeding into that area as well as, like I said, to the business community. So to me, it's a huge issue to be able to support whatever the decision is that we keep this going. But it does make New Canaan special in that the town has been taking this responsibility. So I'm concerned about, I understand what you said, Tom, about public policy, but I am that it could change, but I am concerned about reneging on what we promised residents on Main Street, because there was a huge amount of divisiveness, in 2008 about that.
My only comments are, number one, Hillary, truer words were never spoken. Not everyone will be happy. I'm learning that. That's absolutely true. I think Christina's point is well taken, and what Kim just said, going back on something the town promised people along Main Street, changing that is a decision not to be taken lightly. The third thing I want to say is, Christina, you made a point at the meeting that I think is also well taken, which is that if the town were to not change the ordinance and the town continued to have the responsibility for maintaining and snow clearing on all those sidewalks, that expense should be shared by all citizens of New Canaan, not just the residents who live where there are sidewalks.
Right.
Because those sidewalks benefit everybody in town.
Right.
I thought that was a point well taken. But I don't think it's going to be an easy issue. But I also understand what Deanna was saying. I'm not interested in building any more sidewalks if we're going to just incur more and more expense in an increasing inflationary environment. Tough issue.
Yeah, I just quickly, I'd be concerned, I wasn't able to make the committee meeting, but, the liability for one, I'm kind of concerned about what maintenance actually includes. Is it just shoveling? Is it wet leaves? And I know that, so I just think that's something that should be discussed probably in great detail. But I keep thinking about taxes in general. When you move into a town, you pay taxes and you expect roads, schools, sidewalks. And, we don't charge just people who use schools. And it just doesn't seem fair that just because you happen to live on a sidewalk, you should have to pay for the maintenance of that sidewalk. So, I'm definitely more leaning towards, I think it's a town function that's supported by taxes, and we have to figure out how to make it actually, if we're not getting to all the sidewalks, figure out why,
Now, Maria, we are the only town, maybe one other town in this state and in most states that takes this responsibility. So,
That'd be
I
the
understand the
people.
fair, but
okay, but
every
we're,
town in
we're always
Connecticut
different. New
doesn't do
Canaan
it.
is always different.
I can pretty much guarantee
Yeah.
you that if we leave the responsibility of maintaining, shoveling, and clearing the sidewalks to the residents who are abutting those sidewalks will not be properly and adequately maintained. I know that for a fact, I guarantee it.
That was my
maintain
point,
now.
is like,
They
that the
won't all be.
liability is going to get worse, but even forget about liability. What about just safety? Like, no matter who's in charge of it. I agree with you, Eric. But I think Weston, Connecticut just started a sidewalk project, and they are taking responsibility for, the sidewalk maintenance.
Might be the one other.
Well,
Yeah.
keep in mind that the current ordinance and state law gives the town the option to require, if residents have the duty, to require them to actually shovel. And to go in, if they don't, the town has the ability to go in and shovel for them and bill them for the cost. So that's an option that we have. We're not, I think we're not, so that if the question is, will the sidewalks get shoveled? That's one way to increase the chances that they would.
Well, there's also who's going to enforce it, right? And like Maria said, if someone lives on a 4-acre zone and they go to town and they decide to walk to Waveney, why should the resident that lives in front of a sidewalk have to either pay a landscaper or themselves or someone to shovel it? It's a tax on the people that have sidewalks, and I also don't think that's fair.
Yeah,
Also a benefit to those.
I think
who
there's
have
a
the
huge
house
benefit
with
to
a
people who have,
sidewalk.
I made the anecdote that I bought my house in the winter and I'm on a fairly busy street. And I was shocked when I went to the closing and I went to do the final walkthrough and I was like, where's the sidewalk in front of this house? Because I'm on a pretty busy street with very young kids. I would, I mean, just personally, I would take on that responsibility if it was my responsibility. It's part of being a homeowner. There's a lot of things that we do. We have to cut our grass for the most part, or maybe we're subject to a blight ordinance. Like we have to, you know, there are a lot of things that we do to, that we do as homeowners, and we accept that responsibility. And part of your homeowner's insurance is typically injuries that might occur on property that you're responsible for. And so, you know, and I'm not, listen, this is why we get paid the big bucks to decide these issues, right? Like, this is what we're here for. And I do, to your point, Eric, and to everybody's point, I think this is a discussion we will continue having, but it's worthy to hear from everyone. And particularly if you hear from citizens that have an opinion one way or the other, I think that is very helpful. Because obviously we don't want to make this decision necessarily in a vacuum or assume what people would do. There might be people on South Avenue who do it anyway because the town, it takes a while for them to get there.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I didn't
No,
mean
I'm
to
sorry.
interrupt you.
I'm done.
So one of the things that I know we've done on other ordinances, like the leaf blower ordinances, there was comments that there wasn't enough public involvement or interest in pursuing this issue. So I think so far we've received only letters that are against changing the ordinance. So I just want to bring that up. And then we also received some information from a resident that no one really knows this is happening. So I would encourage whatever our committee or whatever we can do to get really, I mean, to me, this should be really more public opinion based because they are the taxpayers and, you know, do they want to pay more money for sidewalks? I mean, I don't think we've asked them. I mean, the POCD has sidewalks as one of the second or third biggest concerns of residents, not only expanding the sidewalks, but just liking sidewalks, wanting to maintain them. So it is a huge issue.
Oh, and one more thing, just to answer your question, Maria, the state statute that gives municipalities the authority to delegate the responsibility and potential liability to abutting homeowners really specifically speaks to just snow and ice. As far as I know, it does not talk about other general maintenance or clearing leaves or things like that. I just want to make that clear that we are really discussing a snow and ice issue here, and that's what we would amend our snow and ice ordinance to cover. Just want to make that clear. so that
But
we're
on the
not
broader
debating.
point of maintenance, the town, if the town installs the sidewalk, the town will maintain the sidewalk. So if it's crumbling apart or it needs to be reworked with new cement or whatever, that the town's on the hook for that. So that if I'm on a street is fairly heavy traffic, I mean, to me, having a sidewalk on that street, not necessarily in front of my house, but on either side, having that sidewalk, you know, is far more valuable to me than the detriment of sweeping it. You guys may disagree, but I think sidewalks have such compelling public value that I think we're going to see. Christina's arguing that the cost of shoveling is modest. If that's the case, well, isn't it also modest to the homeowners? So.
Okay.
It has a subset of people that have the sidewalks. That's the difference, right? Versus the 18, 19, 20,000 people that live in the town.
But I
So
can't
it's
walk the town
separating
without
out people and saying you have that tax and you're already paying taxes. So I don't think it's really the same thing. But anyway.
We'll continue this conversation.
Sorry.
Thanks for indulging us.
Very short
A
comment.
penny and then we're done.
And you were mentioning, you know, the public's interests, but how much does the public really know this is being discussed? We are going into summer. So this is not the time to be having public hearings on this issue. You really got to wait till September when people come back and have an opportunity to participate. Otherwise, it's going to be one of these, oh, you did it when we weren't around. And that's not healthy.
There has been press coverage already.
Let me.
I understand, but
Penny, I mean, there was one article in the Advertiser, but especially people with school children, they do all go. I mean, today was graduation. Friday's the last day of school. So you don't want people to feel like it was done during the summer. I agree.
Yeah, so, all right, let me shut this down. Okay, great conversations. Like I said, we can go back and forth. I can see both sides of it. My solution is heated sidewalks, just put heated sidewalks in, get it done. And with that, but then on the other, the real serious point is that with respect to this discussion, and someone did mention it at your meeting, it was like, oh, you know, we're getting sandbagged here. We didn't hear this. We didn't know this was on. So look, it's an important discussion. There has to be more B&O committee meetings. We'll have it on as a full agenda item meeting in the fall. And we will publicize this because it is a big change for residents if it ends up going that way. It's a huge balance to more sidewalks, who's paying for it? And we're all getting a tax increase. And you made a great point at their meeting, which was wait till you get that tax bill and then, I'm paraphrasing, come talk to me about who should be paying for sidewalk removal. So it can go back and forth. Lots more meetings should be had, especially into the fall when people return, and we'll get to that. So let's move it along. Is there anything else in bylaws and ordinances?
No, thank you.
All right, let's move to education.
I just need to say, not everybody's going to get a tax increase, but
That's true. That's true. There's a certain percentage of people who actually get.
Big
an
percentage.
increase, and some people will get a small increase, and then there's about over 30-40% that will have. So
Fair enough.
if you listen to the board meetings last night, Todd does a very nice job of breaking out the segmentation of who's going to get a reduction, small increase, or $2,000. Over $2,000.
Fair
Is
enough.
there any trend on who's going to get the biggest increase? Like, is it
Based on your
Property assessment,
assessment.
probably.
Yeah.
You had your assessment, you got your assessment.
No, I know what it's based on, but I'm saying, is it homes above a certain amount or above a certain
I think
property limit?
I haven't seen the breakout, but I think it's neighborhoods, it's where there's been recent turnover, so I don't know that I can speak to any. It wasn't like, I know last year or like 10 years ago, it was like in town versus out of town, but that's not what's happening this time.
All right, well, we can all watch the Board of Finance.
Thank
Very good, thank you. All right, education.
So at the last meeting, I just want to note a couple things. They did CABE, C-A-B-E student, and I don't know what it stands for, so sorry. Student Leader Award recognition. I just want to give a congratulations to Melissa Rizzo and Luke Huang. Just listening to the stories of these two students, they are exemplary students who showed like leadership and the ability to take on challenges and the willingness to make difficult decisions. Honestly, if you get the chance, it's a really great meeting to look at, because in addition to those incredible students that they recognized, they also recognized retirees, and they had videos of the teachers, and it was really just emotional. It was a wonderful experience if you do want to watch it. They also mentioned the budget adjustments to reach the reduction that was in the 2024-25 budget ask. And so how they got to the complete ask was retirement savings, fuel reimbursement, a facilities adjustment, a reduction of one school bus, and savings in the ISF stop loss. So with those adjustments, they were able to reach budget.
so no classroom impact.
Oh, no, nothing.
Can you email that to us? You said it fast, but I'd really like to see.
Sure,
that.
actually, and Dr. Letzi sent,
Yeah, we can just forward it. to
we'll
them.
just forward it to
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Absolutely.
And just to add that CABE is the Connecticut Association
you.
of Boards of Education. So it's a statewide organization. So
Great.
it's good recognition.
It's amazing. And these, I mean, when I listened to it, I was like, wow, I couldn't believe what they did. It's amazing. Also, just so we know, the requested budget originally was a 6.59% increase over last year. And with these reductions, we're at a 5.93% increase this year coming up. So I just wanted to give that update.
Great. Maria, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Rita, that's it?
That's it.
All right, let's move to finance and government. Any update report?
Not for me, Eric.
Not for me. I've been asking Todd about the mill rate. And
I think watched the Board of Finance meeting last night.
I haven't watched it yet.
Health and Human Services.
I have a few things.
Sure.
Okay, so the health department is super busy. State remains super busy. You can look at all the things that they do. They have a lot of data on behavioral health that I think is informing, what are some continue to be pressing issues in our community. They have all kinds of data on emergency room reports on certain very serious mental health issues. I want to also report that the health director of human services has resigned, and her last day will be on Friday. The new acting director is Marcy Rand, who's a social worker, who's in charge of adult and senior services. So when she described what was going to happen over the summer, she was going to kind of see how things go and how things are going to proceed in the department as a whole. And I just want to make a shout out to two different different initiatives that have started that are informed by the health department data. So last month, I mentioned the New Canaan Behavioral Health Alliance. It's a website that has been started, launched about a month ago. It's had a nice number of hits. For anyone watching, it's newcanaanbha.org. It's a collaboration between the health services in New Canaan, the Community Foundation and Silver Hill Hospital, partnered with 30 local agencies. So if someone needs to get a therapist and wants to get educated on if they need to get a therapist or if they have a mental health issue for themselves or their family, they can also get information from that website. There's another website that the Opioid Settlement Fund has funded called REAL, R-E-A-L, and it's a research, the website is recoveryeducation.com. And what it is, it's for parents or family members of anyone with substance misuse issues. So it's really an educational platform, and it's a platform to understand how to deal with someone in your family that is going through that particular issue. So that has been subscribed to, with a fair number of residents. And so we're really, I really see New Canaan on the forefront of addressing mental health in the community with the urgent assessment program. I mean, we are just really hitting it out of the park in terms of trying to help residents as much as possible, and I hope this continues. Thank you.
Excellent report, Kim. Anything else for Health and Human Services? No? Infrastructure and Utilities, Christina and Rita.
Okay, I'll start with the infrastructure subcommittee meeting that we had yesterday. The town is asking for residents to sign up for Stay Notified for all things in New Canaan, the Public Works, the first selectman notice, letters, et cetera, and different departments can reach you to let you know if your road is being paved or if there are any obstructions on the road. But without that, we found that this past few weeks, when some of the streets were being repaved, that neighbors were complaining that they weren't notified. So that will solve the issue. Construction updates. Banco Pool parking lot has been repaved. East School parking lot is complete. West School parking to start the Monday after school is over. Paving throughout town is underway. Some streets have been recently have received a preliminary coat, and more work will be done at the end of July. Parking lots, some parking lots, if it's of interest, Locust and Lumberyard scheduled to be paved June 24th. Train station on Elm Street is scheduled as a summer project. Parks, Bristow, the graffiti was addressed and has been removed. FlexiPave is scheduled for June 21st to be installed. Schools, Saks basketball courts will start the first Monday after school ends. They'll start working on it, but the parking lots at Saks are planned to be paved in a year and not at this time. Waveney, the town has retained Hoffman Architects to investigate the water infiltration issues, and the elevator is presently scheduled to be measured and reviewed by the contractor and then by the manufacturer. That's it for now.
Excellent.
Do you have anything to add?
Sorry, can I just clarify one thing? The alerts is actually, the red box is get alerts, not stay notified. So if you go to the town's website, you go to the get alerts and then you sign up for the DPW and any, health department newsletter. You'll also get the emergency alerts, but it's get alerts because there's 4 boxes at the top. So I just want to make sure we have the right spot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question, if people were already on those alerts, this is a whole new system, right?
So what it is it's still the Everbridge system because I didn't want to pay any more money for a new, I am a little frugal. So we're utilizing Everbridge, but only for the first 3 newsletters did we use the full database of Everbridge. I notified people in the last issue that if they didn't re-sign up, they'd only be getting the emergency alerts. They wouldn't be getting all the other things that we had been sending. Okay. So if they didn't get something this past month, if they didn't get, the June 11th newsletter, it means, and they had gotten it previously and they want to get it, they have to sign up again.
Okay. So, but they will get the emergency if there's a storm.
Emergency, if they had signed up months ago, they would still get those.
Most people are under the impression that they signed up for the emergency notice.
I know.
Can you just elaborate how it's different?
Well, so if you want to get anything other than emergency alerts and you thought you signed up for emergency alerts anytime in the last few years, you'll still get those. But you will not get the DPW, the newsletter, the health department, the Parks and Rec notices. So when you go into the get alerts button, it'll take you and you'll see the Everbridge logo. You'll click into that. You'll also, and then you'll be able to sign up. You have to enter your data again. I know it kind of frustrates people that they have to enter their data again, but they do, because we have to make sure that we're not utilizing old data for emergency systems. We don't want to bug people with, you know, other information they don't want. So they have to sign up again, put all their data in, and then click which departments they want to get their information from. So do they want to get my newsletter? Do they want to get the DPW alerts? So there's 6 different options, and they can select which of those 6. They can get all 6. They can get just 1 or 2, whatever they want.
Thank you.
Have to know that you can't just take.
Great.
And just so you know, eventually we're hoping to get a geolocating option with the DPW alerts, so that those people that signed up for DPW alerts will be able to be notified of something in their, you know, in their area. So they're, you know, they can also get the full complement, but we may be getting to the point. So that's the long-term goal.
Yeah. Awesome. One addition to what Christina said, just people would want to know, the Saks courts are going to be done. They're going to be started right after school ends. So that whole area that they raised money for to do that, that's going to be happening, which is really exciting. And on the utility side, just really quick, I attended the utilities, or I watched the Utilities Commission. There are 3 things I thought were interesting. One, Richard Corkin is a New Canaan resident. He gave a really thorough presentation and a compelling case. I thought it was compelling, for doing a proof of concept for undergrounding lines. It would be a public-private partnership, and it would be like a mile long proof of concept. And there would be, I think, 1, 2, 3, 5 reasons or 5 benefits. One, resiliency. So it wouldn't just benefit, you would pick an area that would benefit the greatest amount of people, because there's like bridged lines. Safety, being able to get to people during disaster or emergency situations, disaster mitigation, and enhancing New Canaan as a choice for remote workers, as well as beautification. So for all those reasons, we'll probably be seeing that at some point. Just a heads up. Second, Krista Kennan gave a cell coverage project update. So the drive-by study has been done. They're working on a broadband speed test study, which is going to be coming. They're getting funds are there, and more to come on that. One interesting thing, due to the lawsuit on that last, against the last cell tower on Ponus Ridge, that decision was actually, it's going to be overturned. So yeah, apparently the siting council was not appropriately staffed to make that approval. So it was overturned, and that actually, the way they were staffed might apply to other decisions as well. So we might see more coming out of that. And the third thing is Frontier is, as some people already know, is coming in to wire the town with fiber optics. I think some people were happy and some people were trepidation, or had some trepidation, because, you know, Frontier doesn't really have a great reputation. However, it's all new management at Frontier. They seem to be really engaged, and hopefully we'll have another challenger to Optimum. And that's June 18th. They will be presenting at the Utilities Commission if people want to hear what they have to say.
Can I ask you, Deanna, a question? My understanding is that Kevin created a lease with the owner of the Ponus Ridge property and provided a down payment of $20,000 or $25,000 to create that lease. To retain, yes, probably not, to retain that spot so a cell tower could be built for the town. So could I ask you to look into that to see?
Can you send me an email just with the specifics? So I
Okay,
that would be great.
Thank
But
you.
yes, okay.
All right. Thank you, Christina and Rita. Land use, recreation, and conservation. Do we have any updates?
Yep, I do. I will have to say that I think it might actually be helpful for all of us to read the minutes of the Park and Rec commission, because it is 3.5 pages long. It is very, very detailed. They do a ton of work. And so how do you pick of all of their activities, what is the most important to report to you? Because it's a lot of little stuff, you know, there's something in the dog park, there's something in the swimming pool, there's something in the baseball fields. I mean, it's just a really multifaceted operation in the Parks and Recreation Commission responsibilities. One thing I thought was interesting is that the bid documents for the powerhouse is about ready to be prepared and go out to bid. They have raised over $1 million. So we'll start seeing some action as that unfolds. There's some extension of parking lot in Waveney Park on the west side. So that will be adding about another 38 spaces and address the playground and so forth that's about to be developed. They actually have, excuse me, their meeting tonight because it's the second Wednesday, but we normally meet on the third. And they're having annual reports of the Waveney Conservancy and the New Canaan Garden Club and the Banco Pool and the Mead Tennis and Pickleball courts. So they really, as they have taken their commission and divided everybody into various parts of the responsibilities, they are really on top of everything that's going on, and impressively so.
The pool is fantastic and the new parking lot is great. I've been a lot since it opened and it's just pristine. So I know you had brought that up about having regular cleaning. It is so amazing and it's been so much fun. So I'm so happy that
That's great news to hear.
the pool is in fantastic shape.
Benny, thanks. Fantastic report. Public safety, we had basically the public safety today. There's nothing to report on the fire department or EMS. So we'll move to affordable housing.
Okay, just quickly. So again, we're divided into subcommittees. I'm on the site location subcommittee. We are trying to narrow down potential sites for a future affordable housing project. The statute that was passed by the legislature that would allow for carryover units went into effect today, as far as I know. So as long as the governor doesn't veto something by a certain date, even if he doesn't sign it, it becomes law under Connecticut law. So that became law today. So that's a very good development for us. Are we within the 20-day period right now for the moratorium application? Okay, so after that, it goes then to the it gets submitted to the Department of Housing. They have a notice period, and then there will be a period of time where they're making their decision, and hopefully that's expedited from 90 days to 60, but they have as much as 90 days, which I think includes that 20-day notice period, or no?
No.
Okay.
It's the 20 days is ours.
Okay.
20 days is ours, then it goes to the state. They have up to a month to
Right.
review. And then the 90 days.
And then the 90 days starts.
But we are hoping that we get a much quicker review.
Right. So like I said, we're narrowing down potential sites. We're meeting again at 5:30 before our next broader affordable housing committee, where we're each taking a separate potential site, like Richmond Hill parking lot, Locust parking lot, Lumberyard, a couple of other owned municipal and state-owned properties that could be potential for a building. And then the finance committee is going to hopefully help us with, how do we pay for this? How do we figure this out? So I think we've been working really well together. We had a meeting on Monday night. John Engel came and spoke to us about the real estate environment and if we wanted to play sort of what's called small ball, because what we might be required to build now is much smaller than what we initially thought. We thought we might have to do 70 to 100 units. Now we're looking, cross our fingers, at 15 to 20. which is a significant reduction. So we're looking at all options, and it's going, I think, really well so far, but it's time for us to sort of put the rubber to the road and start identifying sites and figuring out how we're gonna pay for it.
Excuse me, did the state lower the requirement of 10% of housing to be affordable?
No, the state, under the statute, you need 3% of housing to qualify for the moratorium, and our goal is to qualify for successive moratoriums. We will never make the 10%. The 10% is what allows developers who file applications pursuant to 830G to appeal denials of those applications. So it's not really a requirement that we have 10%. That's what makes it an appealable issue. So it's a little different. So our goal, though, is right now, our stated goal is successive moratoriums. So we just want to meet that or exceed it if we can. But the whole point was, if we can't count carryover units to successive moratorium applications, what's the point of building more? Now, if we build more, we could get possibly even more successive moratoriums under our belt. So this is a welcome development, and I appreciate our legislators working on it, our legislators working on it. So that's where we are.
Hillary, I don't know if you know the answer to this, and I don't want to put you on the spot.
You can
but
put me
how
on the
many
spot.
carryover units would be eligible now with this new law?
I mean, quite a few, because we've got some Millport carryover units that we had put in our initial moratorium application that was denied. We have a lot of extra units in Canaan Parish that we don't need to use for this application. So if we didn't have that ability to carry over, we would lose a significant number of units that we could apply towards them, like 40 or 50, if I'm not mistaken.
We are very close to another moratorium if we can use these carryover units.
Wow.
We would probably need, probably 15 Hue points.
15 Hue points. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Yeah.
Probably more like 10 units.
Yeah.
So it's, so, and in my conversation with the commissioner, they were saying, we can apply anytime, and the moratorium would begin, the next moratorium at the end. Now there's,
Okay.
so we
I
could
see.
do
So we
that.
could do it in a year. And
Exactly.
but it wouldn't start until the
Which
fifth
we
one.
didn't realize. The only thing is, you may want to look at the environment you're in and say, do I need to go for the moratorium, and do I want to save these and maybe wait another year? So that's a discussion that the Affordable Housing Committee should have, but it was a nice, given sort of the difficulties we're having with the commission, going through this and giving ourselves more time is something to think about.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful. And, there's a variety of sites. Yes.
And what effect does this, these rulings or this ruling, if it's only one, have on the existing already proposed sites?
Which
The
ruling?
projects.
The projects that are in
car park.
litigation.
It doesn't have any impact on the 830G pending projects. Those are still going into litigation. The statute has zero impact on whether they can go forward or not. Oh, I love that. That's what Stellan was doing at my last. So those are completely separate. It could possibly have an impact on our lawsuit against the DOH that we brought for the denial of our previous moratorium. It could render that moot, but right now I don't know what's strategic. That's beyond my wheelhouse to comment on whether that's strategically appropriate or not. So that's something Deanna can handle with the lawyers. That's what she gets paid the big bucks for. So no, there will be that is before Judge O'Hanlon, who will decide whether we had a proper basis under 830G for denying those. Am I misspeaking?
No, everything you're saying, I'm shaking my head.
Okay.
Sounds great.
So yeah, no impact.
It's gonna be an interesting question, because we've seen this huge boogeyman coming, and when we drafted the ordinance, we were saying it's such a huge problem that let's make sure we focus our efforts on 830G issues.
Yeah.
Rolling moratorium. But now if we're saying maybe we only need 10 units, some people are going to stand up and say, well, why don't you build 100 and use it for workforce housing and all these other things?
Well, I think the nice thing is that to the extent that we have a little bit of breathing room, we can really try as a committee to focus also on what I like to call lowercase a affordable housing, not that uppercase A affordable housing under 830G, and really start to look at the needs of our community, like senior housing, which you get fewer Hue points for, but we're trying to maximize Hue points. So how do we balance what we need for a moratorium with what our community really needs, which is 2 and 3 bedroom apartments for families that want to move in and come to our schools, senior housing, people with developmental disabilities, you know, this.
Now, that would be a different committee because the committee that it was formed was for moratorium, moving towards moratorium and 830G. It was a very clearly defined committee.
Yes.
So what you're talking about is outside the purview of the committee. It may be the purview of this group or something else, but that is outside. And I would caution, given the legislation that we have, and I said this during, the campaign, and I say this, I am all for low A affordable housing. Unfortunately, with the overhang of 830G, that big development you talk about with not big A affordable now moves the goalpost further down the line and creates the need for us to build even more big A affordable.
Yeah.
So we have to really think strategically about what we want to build, how we want to build it. And because for those of I've been here 28 years, I know a number of you have been here longer. The density in this town is I'm starting to feel it in our streets. And so we have to really be judicious in how we do things.
Yeah, and
So-
it might mean spreading it out a little bit, maybe not having it in where it's concentrated now or where it would create more density. So these are all things that we're considering, and we're trying to sort of integrate it possibly more into the community. So yeah, all things we're considering, but it's been, I feel like, productive so far, but we've got to.
Watched all your meetings.
So I can't get to all of them, but I definitely watch it, and they're doing a great job. I mean, there's a lot, you're bringing in some great speakers and really being thoughtful in how you approach everything. So I really appreciate all the work.
Okay, so with that said, oh, yeah, Penny, you had something in
I
closing?
did. I just wanted to say thank you to Rita for working in partnership to get the banner produced.
Yes, it was a great job. Too bad.
Penny.
It was a great team.
You ready
Can
for-
we just hang it
What's-
here
what's
during our
next?
meetings? Like we can get
No.
some use out of it.
Where are these people sitting? Look at the banners.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
No, it now resides in my storeroom at home, and it's
Future
ready for
generations.
the next call for us to have a banner. But thank you, Rita, and it was an effort that we pulled in a lot of other people who had, where's the logo?
Excellent.
It
Yeah,
was not
great work.
accessible that easily, but we got
If
it.
we have a
now.
logo, if anyone needs one for anything else. Several different versions.
Shirts made it.
So great job, guys.
We need some swag.
And then before we close out, I would say for all those celebrating Pride Month, right? So shout out to our community for everyone who's celebrating. Other than that, motion to adjourn?
So I motion.
All right. All in favor?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Good night, everyone.